Hi, everybody, and welcome to the 12th Annual Naples International Film Festival and this special TalkBack Q&A. I'm Shannon Franklin, festival producer. We want to thank our TalkBack Q&A sponsors, Saran and Stan Kraushar. Today, we are very excited to be talking to many of the filmmakers from the shorts that are part of our shorts package, Whatever It Takes. They're all here now, so hello, everybody. I think the easiest way to do this is I would love for you guys, if I can go around, say your name of your film, your role with the film, and where you're zooming in from. So I will start with, I'm gonna start with Natalie, if you wanna say hello.
Sure. Hi, I'm Natalie Metzger. I'm the co-writer and co-director of IMMORTAL, and I am calling in from Los Angeles.
Great. Laura, do you wanna?
Hi, my name is Laura Coover. I'm an actress in Immortal and zooming in from Los Angeles.
Great, thanks so much. And I'm gonna bounce over to the Bragg brothers. Austin, do you wanna go?
Sure, I'm Austin Bragg with A Piece of Cake, co-writer, co-director, along with my brother. I'm just outside of Washington, D.C.
Ditto. I am just outside of Washington, D.C., but I'm in Alexandria. Austin is in Arlington.
Thank you for that distinction. All right, excellent. Maya, how about you?
I'm Maya Albanese. I'm the writer and director of Freeze, and I'm calling in from Los Angeles.
Great, thank you. And Allison.
Hi, I'm Allison Clayman. I'm the director and producer of Flower Punk, and I'm here in Brooklyn.
Fantastic. Well, again, thank you so much for making the time to be here. This is what I think one of the things that makes a film festival so special is the opportunity to actually hear from the creators and the actors and the whole team that makes these films possible. And I think what's really unique is to be able to bring all of you together. It's something we are not always able to do at our festival in person. So we really do appreciate you all being here. So I think to get started on that, I would love to go around again and maybe just give a little backstory for each of you, how this project kind of came to be. I think many of you, most of you are also writers on the project as well as directors and wearing all the other hats. If you just kind of give us a little bit of background on how this project kind of came about for you. I'm going to kick it over to Maya.
Well, Freeze is the most honest film I've ever made. It is inspired by my own life and the experience of being a 30-something woman, navigating an ambitious career path and a desire to have a family all at once in an era of unparalleled female choice that we're in now. So causes a lot of anxiety, chaos, confusion, uncertainty. Every morning you wake up, you have to make a choice about whether you want to spend time on having a family or your personal life or going on a date, or whether you want to write your screenplay or whatever you do for a living as a woman now. And so I just kind of put that on the page. My experience, not knowing I would ever make the film, it was written almost purely for catharsis. It's genuinely my sense of humor, and showed it to a couple of people, and the rest is history. So yeah, I guess it's just like straight up inspired by my experience as a woman.
Wow, that's incredible. And so you had said initially, like you were writing it really for yourself to kind of move through it. From the time that you kind of realized maybe there's something here that I should put on the screen, how long did that take you then to go into production on it?
It was so fast. I mean, I'm a director first. I've been a director for years, and this is actually the first thing I've written that I've gotten to put on screen. So it was really exciting. I think that was more what it was about, was I am a visual writer, and with the intention of always making it. But, you know, when you first start writing, you're always like, nobody's going to want to read this. Nobody's going to want to make this, you know, and then it was crazy. It was like I wrote it in July, August of a summer, and it was funded and casted by December 1st, and we shot it in January. So it was like from writing it to production, it was something like a 4-month process.
Wow, that's fast. Clearly, you know, meant to be comes together so nicely. So I think in terms of casting, I'd love to just touch base with that as well. You said it came together really quickly. How did you find an incredible cast? How'd that come together for you?
Same thing with everything. It was just all felt very kismet. It was a total whirlwind. None of it was anything I was anticipating. Obviously, I feel incredibly grateful and blessed at how it turned out. but yeah, it turns out that when you write something really vulnerable about your own life, that you know, your experience as a human being, a lot of other people out there can probably relate to it too. And it turns out that not a lot of people are making sort of comedic lens stories about female fertility. And so the concept and the style of the writing and the sense of humor really resonated with people, both funders and actors. And we just had actors like accepting the parts right away, because they liked the voice, they liked the concept, and they liked what it had to say about, you know, the social commentary underlying the satire. So yeah, it was just, again, once we, you know, got one or two name actors attached, then it becomes like a domino effect, and we ended up doing offer only on every single part instead of doing any auditions as a result.
Wow. Wow. That's a great process. And the result is just a phenomenal piece. It really is. I mean, all of your films, I have to say. I always love our shorts. I mean, I obviously, that was, why else would we be programming them? But I just think this package of shorts, as I sat down to really think about this, was all of you, your point of view, your storytelling, each one. It's so unique. It's also incredibly cinematic. So I do want to come back and touch upon that with each of you, because that's another aspect that I think really stands out. I'd love to actually go over to Allison for a moment to kind of ask you about, you know, how you decided to take on this subject matter and put together this incredible short film.
Yeah, I first heard about Azuma, the, you know, flower artist, and his partner Shinoki, like 5 years ago almost. I was living in Tokyo, and another filmmaker friend, Mark Silver, who's a great documentary director and ended up being the cinematographer on this one, working with me. He suggested I check out Azuma's work since he knew I was in Japan. And I just thought it was so stunning, so visually stunning. It was almost like intimidating at first. Like, I knew it could be a great film, but also it's like a real responsibility. How do you improve upon something that's like a perfect snapshot, or, you know, maybe a little time lapse of flowers? You know, he puts flowers in these epic places, situations. He's really pushing the boundaries of his craft, and it's so visual. So I just saw it as like, this is an opportunity to bring the sort of storytelling aspect to it, you know, that the only reason the film should be made is if it helps you understand kind of the why, and maybe also the arc of his own career. He's someone who collaborates a lot also with fashion houses, and even does a lot of like commercial work. And so people know how to like leverage the visual images, but I felt like, you know, what I wanted to bring was that kind of more intimate personal touch. And also I've done several artist kind of profile documentaries already. And so I thought, you know, that gave me maybe a reason to be involved with someone. But I just thought, I mean, when you look at his pictures, they're just, you know, and flowers are something that I didn't really think a lot about until I got to work on this. And it took several years because Azuma was into it right away. But, you know, it just took time to find the right partners and the right funding, and, you know, working in Japan, you know, needing to subtitle stuff, just things like make it a little more than like a you know, small, you know, scrappy short, to kind of do it the right way.
Yeah, I mean, it is an incredible story. So the Naples International Film Festival is actually part of a larger multidisciplinary arts organization called Artists Naples. And so everything from visual and performing arts. And so specifically the work that, you know, with this short really resonated with our organization, and I know with our community as well, like you said. And I think you did a beautiful job capturing the artistry of that, but also the intimacy of the person behind it, which we'll come back to the you know, the visuals. But about how long did you say ultimately from the time you decided you're gonna you know, work on this piece to getting a finished product?
I'm trying to remember. I mean, it was a couple of years all in. The funny thing is that, so it ended up, I filmed it in the summer of 2018, and it ended up being as a sort of break for me from being on the road following Steve Bannon for a documentary called The Brink. And, you know, that was not at all the context for when I, you know, originally, you know, was interested in the project and taking on. And then it became, for me, a really defining aspect of it, just for what was going on for me personally, to be spending time thinking about, you know, the life and death of flowers, thinking about beauty, thinking about just, you know, taking a break from the daily news cycle. I feel like I actually was able to really bring my whole self to it in a way, even though it was like, you could say, oh, it's multitasking because you're, you know, on a break from another project. But I actually think for me, it was like very healing. And I think it had me really open to some of maybe even the spiritual quality of it in a way that I might not have been if I was just like still living there and just like, hey, I'm rolling over to, you know, this neighborhood and I'm going to film with, you know, at his studio. It made it kind of more of a special, like, sacred time.
Oh, that's really cool. Thank you for sharing that. That I would move over to the team over at Immortal and chat with you guys for a minute. If you could talk a little bit, maybe Natalie, starting off with, I know that you co-wrote and directed the film and produced a lot of hats. How did that come to be, the idea and putting this together?
Yeah, so my co-writer Bob and I, we've kind of been obsessed with life extension for several years now. We had actually written a feature script kind of around a similar character, similar idea, and as the feature script was developing and changing and becoming a much bigger scope, we were like, well, we still want to just be able to kind of test out this idea and do something much more contained. And so we decided to write a short film that was kind of based around similar characters and a concept as the feature, but a very different genre, a very different storyline. And so, yeah, I mean, I think life extension just itself is just fascinating. The idea of either curing aging or, you know, the idea of, you know, the person that's going to live to be 1,000 years old is like on the earth today, like all these different theories and like the science and scientific research happening around it is just really fascinating. And so, you know, we did a lot of deep dives into that and talked to different researchers who are currently in this field. And then, you know, on top of that, I think we as filmmakers are constantly dealing with work-life balance and how to manage that. And I was actually, when we first got the idea to write a short, I was actually on set in Utah shooting a movie that actually just released today. And so I was in Utah and Bob was back in LA, and we were like just talking about just the nature of work-life balance. And so it kind of all came together into this short where we kind of explored what, like what, at what point does the work become like more important than the relationship, or and does it ever become more important from like than the relationship, and what would you choose in that, you know, situation? And yeah, so we were just exploring a lot of those topics, but we wrote it around like March of 2019 and then shot in October and then had it done by the end of the year.
Wow. And then with casting, great cast. And so maybe you can speak to how Laura got involved.
Yeah, for sure. So I first met Laura several years ago. She was in a short film that I produced called Utopian Wares. And I was just so blown away by her performance in that short that, you know, for like other projects that came up, I kind of kept on recommending her to different directors. Like, you know, you should really cast her. And she ended up getting just like cast in like a lot of projects that I produced, several short films with Jim Cummings, and also in his in both features, or 3 features, in all 3 Jim Cummings features. And so, yeah, so she was always on my radar. And, you know, with this character, it's such a hard character to understand and to embody. And Laura was actually on the top of Bob and my list from like the very, very beginning. She was literally the first person that we talked about for the role. But we kind of felt this obligation of like, oh, well, you know, we shouldn't just go with people that we know. We should like try to like do, you know, like a, you know, a broader reach out. And we did all these like broader reach outs and got all these different like auditions and stuff. And like, we just kept on coming back to Laura and like, we just want Laura to do it. And finally we were like, why have we done this? Like, why didn't we just cast Laura? Like, she's literally the best person for the role. So yeah, but she's just an incredible actress that can walk that fine line between like emotion and like feeling that like you can see the gears working in her head as well. So yeah, and I guess Laura, you can.
Oh, I loved your answer so much about anything. No, it's so flattering. I really am grateful. But yeah, like you said, I worked with Natalie on a handful of projects. It's always been an excellent experience. And reading the script just off the bat, it was so apparent that so much of Natalie's heart was in it. And I saw so much of her in Anna. And then just had like a deeply like personal connection to it right off the bat. So yeah, I was just very grateful that it went my way.
And again, looks like it worked out exactly as it should. I think that's so fantastic. I want to give the Bragg brothers an opportunity to talk a little bit about the genesis of their fantastic film, A Piece of Cake. I don't know which one of you wants to speak first.
Meredith does.
Let's see. The genesis of it, we both have children and young children, and they are very creative in their birthday asks. I had to throw a Moana Queen Elizabeth themed birthday a few years ago. So this is the sort of things that as parents you begin to understand, and you don't want to let them down. So that's really at the crux of the story. The fact about dragées, those silver confectionery balls, it is extremely difficult to find them in California. They are essentially illegal. And so it was just this fun way to talk about, you know, to talk, it was a fun setup, I think, to talk about parenthood, to talk about what should be illegal, what shouldn't be illegal, and people trying to navigate their life and occasionally being thrown for a loop.
Austin, do you want to chime in on that?
No, the only thing I have to add is that we had to bring multiple canisters of those silver dragées to California from Virginia for that shoot. They're that difficult to find.
That is amazing. I would like to actually touch upon what an incredible cast you guys assembled. Obviously, it's, you know, cornerstone. Can you talk a little bit about how you got that cast together?
Sure. We had a wonderful producing partner at MPI. They got us connected with Lindsay Weissmuller, who's fantastic casting director. And, you know, we had our list of people we thought, you know, might be in for the lead. And as we continued to go through it and sort of thin it out before we made offers, Rich just kept rising higher and higher as we watched more and more of his stuff. And we were just elated that, you know, he was our first choice for the role and accepted. Great, amazing guy, great guy to have on set too. Just keeping things light and happy. And just down the line, you know, we had a couple of auditions that we are doing remotely, and I think we just got super lucky with our cast. I was happy with every single person we had.
Yeah, it turned out, and he really is he just embodies all the things you want the dad who loves his family, loves his kid, will do anything, you know. And no, it's incredible. So you know, with festivals, we often pull together these themed packages, right? We find a theme that we think makes sense in some way. So I'm going to throw at you all. We titled this particular package "Whatever It Takes," and we felt like one of the themes that you could tie to each of your stories, which is very unique, different perspectives, definitely that whatever it takes idea. So anyone want to jump in and speak to, you know, no pressure, but if that resonates, how you can see from your point of view, maybe how that theme applies. You want to jump in, or you want me to call on you? Anyone?
I mean, I'll just say for the piece of cake, it's pretty apparent. I mean, at the end of the day, the this story is about whether it's more important to break a promise or break a law, and obviously it's for comedic effect, but there are a number of trials and tribulations that he has to go through and continue to keep going through. So it makes sense to me.
Great. Anybody else? Again, no pressure, and anyone else can kind of. I'll tell you what I was thinking, but I thought it might be better if it was anyone here. Like Natalie.
Yeah, I think it's very clear in Immortal where kind of going back to this like work-life balance is like what's more more important to prioritize, and like it's do you prioritize your relationship with your spouse? Do you prioritize your relationship with your family? Do you prioritize your relationship with your work? And what if your work can change the world? What if your work can save your dad? Like like it's which of these really important things do you juggle? And it's Anna kind of has this like one-track mind where she will do whatever it takes to like prioritize this thing because she has chosen changing the world over everything else.
Do you want to speak to that at all, Anna? Character of.
Yeah, I mean, I think that, I guess one of the things that resonated with me most is like how alienating that can be when you are so focused and committed to your vision. And I thought I really liked how the commitment that she had was sort of started with a desire to bring people close to her and keep people, but in pursuing that ends up doing the opposite. So I just thought that was really interesting, and yeah, I'm sad. but yeah, that would be my take on it.
Yeah, I think, and like I said, I mean, I think there's these different ways of looking at it. I mean, with flower punk, I would say, at least, I don't, again, I feel like I realized I'm putting you on the spot to agree with the theme that we've come up with. But I mean, I think with that particular story with your film, whatever it takes, when just thinking of the lengths that someone will go to for their art, for their vision, for their, and the outcome. I mean, some of the shots that are extraordinary in flower punk. So again, Allison, I don't know like how that may or may not resonate with you with your film.
Oh, totally. I mean, that's always, I think, what draws me into doing films about artists. I always feel like it's such a bonus. I mean, I'm really intrigued with people who are like single-minded and who are able to just, whether it's, I mean, with Azuma, how does he find working with flowers like a life calling? Like, how does that keep his interest every day? How is he upping the stakes for his work? And that's always interesting to me, and I want to learn from them. I feel like I get really interested and curious from all, from so many different directions. So when someone is so focused and able to like stick to that, I'm really interested in it. And the theme of this program made me think, in respect to Azuma's work, about, when he sent flowers up, to the stratosphere and also down to the bottom of the ocean, and that to ask him about those experiences, and to also just, I found it really interesting how, there's so much planning and there's so much to think of, but it was, I thought, fun to realize that he was like, oh, the ocean was so much harder, like infinitely harder, because having to deal with water pressure, and also how you're going to document, because the whole point is not just to send these flowers places, but then to take these stunning images. So the bottom of the ocean has no light. So also, how are you going to light it? And I think the first time they went out, there was also really difficult weather conditions on the boat. And so they did all these trials, and it ends up being very scientific and experimental as well. The idea, it's not just to get the image, but it's like, what are the flowers going to do when they go underwater? What can they withstand the pressure? How do they behave? And so anyway, it made me think about, especially, those extreme projects, and also to be surprised by the idea. I mean, going into space is kind of amazing, and the pictures are so stunning, but I thought it was cool to think about how actually underwater was like even more challenging.
Yeah, no, as you say that, exactly. My first thought is space would be, but the more challenging. But yeah, that's really cool. Maya, you're talking about the genesis of your project and being pulled, like you said, with career and family and for your story. I see a lot of whatever it takes, but in terms of what your goals are and how you're going to accomplish them, for you, any of that kind of resonate in your storytelling?
Yeah, I think the thing that I like the most about Whatever It Takes is it feels a little bit like the tragic comedy tone of the film itself. The tone and storyline for me were inspired by Voltaire's Candide, which was one of my favorite novels growing up. I grew up reading a lot of French literature and saw the opera version of Voltaire's Candide. And for anyone who's seen Candide, they know it's about an eternal optimist navigating a world gone wrong and how everybody taking a piss on the protagonist, what that reveals about the world around the protagonist. So I always intended it to be like a Joy, the lead character is named Joy for a reason. She's supposed to be an optimistic woman who wants this fairy tale life, but when it doesn't work out the way she wants, she keeps pivoting with her optimism, like to her best friend, to get a promotion at work, to whatever it is, and she gets pissed on at every turn. And it's supposed to be a satire about what it's like to be a woman navigating a world run by men, whereas systems aren't set up yet to support us to be both mothers and career people. And so Whatever It Takes feels like Joy's manifesto navigating this world gone awry.
That's very cool. That's very cool. So one of the things I was saying before, which Maya, I'd love to kick it back off with you again, is the look, the feel, the really, particularly as we talk about your film, visually, the cinematography, the set design, the costuming, it's so unique and it really tells a story. I'd love to just kind of talk to you and move through also for all of you have such, visually interesting storytelling as well. So Maya.
Yeah, well, I really thank you. I appreciate that because a lot of work went into that. And I definitely consider myself a visual artist and a visual writer and director, both visual. Definitely cinematography. If there's anything I was doing that wouldn't be writing, directing, it would be cinematography because I'm absolutely a geek about it. And I think like that was probably the biggest challenge of making Freeze is like, as we all know, like short films aren't high budget usually. So when you want to do the kind of movies that I want to make for the rest of my life, which all involve world building and are all like mixed genre, otherworldly, they all have surrealism and magical realism, is such a challenge because you just don't have the production design budget to do that. So there's so many workarounds in Freeze that you don't know watching it. But like, for example, in the opening sequence, which was always sort of meant to feel a little bit like an overture of an opera or ballet, like very performance operatic sort of about this world that we're gonna satirize. We could only afford one cryogenic freezer prop. So we shot in a white room with one cryogenic freezer and marked it and then just took the image and cloned the freezer 3 times. So you're actually seeing like 3 of the same scientists and 3 of the same freezer. So like things like that. So I appreciate you saying it turned out well because it was definitely a labor of love to figure out how to fit it into the budget. And I think I always wanted to make something where and continue to want to make movies where the characters' dilemmas feel very real and there's an emotional storyline people can relate to and everything's just barely heightened. Like it's heightened enough that it's a little bit absurd, but not so absurd that it's not believable. And a lot of that comes from, the shooting style, the performances, obviously, and the cinematography all working together. When you look at some of the best directors out there who do surrealist stuff, if you look at Yorgos movies or Terry Gilliam or something, there isn't one element that makes it so otherworldly. It's like all those things working in concert. And I find that the most fun part of the process.
Oh yeah, and it all came together because instantly from the first moment on screen, you instantly get that. So, and true indie filmmaking, thank you for the little piece of, the tidbit of, doing what you have to, right, with a limited budget, especially for a short film. So I think that's a great, our audience loves those kind of tidbits. So that's a great one. Thank you. I'm going to kick it back over to Austin, Meredith. The look, the feel. I mean, I know I have some certain scenes in my head that stand out that I think storytelling wise, I think really speak volumes, but I'm going to let you go ahead and answer the question directly. Just the look and feel of the film.
Which one? There were, I mean, we had a number of different tonal comps that we had to go through because we really had some, whiplash in terms of the look and feel at various parts of the film. But we had an amazing DP, and we spent a lot of time sort of working out shots on our own with cell phones and trying to figure things out beforehand and experimenting. But I think having all those tonal comps in the back of our head as we got on, the one thing we knew going in was that we wanted it to be relatively stable and smooth to start, and to get more shaky and forced and dark as we continued, and try to find that proper balance of the two melded at the end. But again, all that experimenting, all those tonal comps really paid off.
Yeah. Meredith, did you want to add to that?
No, he said it. I mean, I just remember when we were putting together our lookbook as we were trying to attach people to the project, and we spent a lot of time looking at a lot of photos because we wanted to make sure that everyone understood that in the beginning it was going to look and feel like a happy family comedy, and by the end it will look like a crime genre film, and that was the point. And people got it, and it turned out to be a lot of fun. I mean, I remember walking into that set of the Black Market Dragé set, and I was blown away. I mean, it just looked fantastic. It looked great. So
that was the scene. That was the thing that definitely, it's fantastic. That alone.
Do the whole movie just so we could do that.
And it worked out. So it totally worked out. Oh yeah, no, really, so fantastic.
Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. Natalie, I mean, and of course Laura, speaking to, I mean, the look and the feel and the kind of sci-fi vibe. Can you speak to that? I mean, again, I love all these different films represent these different aspects of storytelling, and each one's so unique, and yet, I think makes sense together because there's all this through line, and all of you have been so thoughtful, obviously, in how you present your films and the worlds that you're sharing with us. So Natalie.
Yeah, I mean, the visuals are such an important part of IMMORTAL because there isn't a ton of dialogue. It's really kind of like living in this woman's world for a little bit. And so like making, turning this beautiful craftsman home into a science lab was a very interesting endeavor, especially on a low budget. So yeah, I think like the biggest, like there were two challenges that were, I think, like, were challenges to like overcome, were the mice of just like, okay, how many mice can we get? How do we like feature them? Like, how do we take care of them? And we bought, so there are, little mice that you buy as food for snakes. And so we figured that we would, buy these mice that would normally just go straight into a snake's mouth and give them their 15 minutes of fame and movie stardom before we eventually donated them to a friend who has a snake. But so that's how we got our mice. And one of our PAs was very excited to take care of them throughout the filming. But the algae was like honestly the toughest thing to pull off, just because, we had grandiose ideas of like this like stuff, kind of growing up the walls and like having this almost like vertebrae, weird kind of strange alien, effect. And we couldn't, afford that. We were only in the house for a day and a half. And so one of the things that our production designer, Natalie Gross, came up with is she was like, what if it's this like really warped lily pad? Like, what if we just like, and she started sending me all these, photos, and Bob and I like immediately were like, oh, that's like a really interesting idea, and like can pull it off. And so like then it became this like weird kelp thing inside of this this water tank, which was really interesting to do. And then working with Nick Matthews, our cinematographer, for these like really long kind of Steadicam takes where again, we're like following this woman alone in this house, or we think that she's alone for the first little bit, and just like that sense of that like haunting that happens when there's just this like camera hovering around someone and just like living in their moment where there's no editing around it. You're just like following with her and experiencing like the room with her. Was and important to us to explore, and like getting weird x-rays to put into the windows of the house and stuff, and just like seeing, I like wasn't sure if that was going to work, but then seeing the light like shine through and like the way that it warps through the x-rays, yeah, it was like really cool. The homeowners came back and didn't recognize their space when they came back briefly.
You did a good job then. and Laura, for you, obviously, to be able to embody the character, what was it like working in that space? And as Natalie said, it's not dialogue heavy, and so much is about the action and being in the space. So what was that like for you?
It was great to, one of the things I love about working with Natalie is she's really inclusive and invites the actors and everybody really to participate creatively, even at an earlier stage. And so I was invited to offer input about some things that would be in the space and wardrobe and things like that. And so I was able to it just sort of helped build out a personal relationship with the space and with my father, because a lot of the things in that space had to do with the relationship I have with him, that just sort of enriched sort of my character development and feeling like I have a sense of specificity and clarity and personal connection to both my father and where we are. So yeah, I think I was really set up with a lot of helpful things to help me on the day with the performance because of how inclusive and collaborative Natalie and everyone at Vanishing Angle is. So yeah, it was great.
Sounds great. And Allison, speaking to visuals, I know you touched upon it a little bit, but a story like this to get on film, like you said, how, for you, speaking from the visuals of storytelling for Flower Punk, can you talk about that a little bit?
Yeah, we chose, my cinematographer and I, who really, he collaborated really closely with me. We chose to go handheld whenever possible, to use like natural lighting. We didn't set up anything fancy because I really had seen so many things about Azuma. Again, I was very affected by the kind of commercial, collaborations he did, and I wanted this to like not feel slick, but still to, it had to have elevated visuals. But I was almost like, I don't want to set anything up, and it took a while to also get Azuma to get that was the point. I think he was used to even like, documentary style in an NHK documentary. It might be a little more like, okay, here's what the scene is, and I was like, well, what would you do right now? He'd be like, what do you want me to do? I'm like, well, what would you do? And to kind of, we had to take that time to get him in that place. And I think being kind of a small footprint and, more naturalistic about how we shot was valuable. And we did bring a small drone around, since we went to, a lot of varied landscapes in Fukushima and Fukuoka, which was his hometown. And Fukushima was a place where I think it was really helpful to have the drone, which we kind of thought of more as like a tripod in the sky, rather than, I feel like everyone's really sick of, drone shots in documentaries, but it was just an opportunity to see like the devastated landscape. And, we would kind of bring it up. There's a little bit of it moving, but also the idea was kind of just to bring it up in the air and just kind of use it almost as like a haunting kind of still. Yeah, so that was our approach. It was a little bit like less is more, and to kind of get out of the way of his own work. And he had archival of some of his projects too that we could use.
It was seamless and it really, visually so stunning, and I think it turned out beautifully. So I want to be able to kind of wrap things up and kind of share with our audience, if you all wouldn't mind, like what's next for all of you. And Allison, I think I'm going to actually have you kick it off, I know, and let us know what's next, with the project, but also with what else you're up to.
Yeah, so Flower Punk is being released by the New Yorker, and so they, had a little write-up about the film. And I'm working right now on a couple different documentary features. One is that I can talk about is a documentary about Alanis Morissette and the album Jagged Little Pill from the mid-90s, and that's going to be for HBO for a music series. So I spent some of the summer, COVID production is a real real thing. But you know, we did it, and I spent the summer hanging out with Alanis Morissette, so that was fun.
That is very cool. I look forward to that very much. And how about you guys? Austin, Meredith, what's next for you guys in the project as well?
We did not hang out with Alanis Morissette.
No.
That sounds cool.
Next time, just come by.
Seriously,
Yeah.
that's great. We have a very unsatisfying answer, which is we do have some news, but we can't talk about it yet, which is terrible, and I'm sorry.
Okay. It's okay.
But hopefully we will have a project announced in a couple weeks.
Austin, do you want to reveal that project and ruin everything?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, cool.
It stars Alanis Morissette.
Well, we're excited that there are, some news that will be coming, and so that's great. And we're thrilled for you guys. Look forward to finding out what that is. Even if you don't want to tell us, fine.
Lawyers.
Yeah, I know.
Always lawyers.
I know. I mean, if you don't want to reveal it right now in this Q&A for Naples, I don't understand. But Natalie, Laura, you guys want to share a little bit about what you're up to, what's next, and certainly, with the film.
Yeah, so we have the feature script of Immortal that we're going to be starting to take out to financiers and distributors over the next couple months, and hoping to shoot sometime next year. I also have a film that released today called The Wolf of Snow Hollow with MGM's Orion label. It's in theaters across the country and on VOD, so you can check it out. Laura is also in that film, so you can see her in that. And then we shot a film earlier this year called Werewolves Within that we partnered with the video game company Ubisoft with. And so we just finished that film. It's with director Josh Rubin, and we're just starting the process of sales and festivals and all that fun stuff. So lots more on the horizon.
That's fantastic. Laura, what about?
I've actually just recently joined the Vanishing Angle team as an executive coordinator. And so I look forward to working more closely with the team that I love so much. I don't really know the timeline of anything. I don't think anyone does, but as we move into production on more projects, I'll be a little bit more closely engaged. Other than that, just auditioning when I can. So.
Well, congratulations. That's very exciting. It's clearly you all love working together, and it makes sense to make it official. That's so great. And Maya, how about you with the film, with what's next, other projects?
Yeah, Freeze is a proof of concept for a TV show. So we're going to be shopping a show that's spun off of it about women in their 30s navigating the world and their fertility. And then I also wrote a feature film that's even more sort of wacky and otherworldly than Freeze, which I'm just hoping to get to a point to, be both shopping it for financing, but also in a world in which the film can be shot, since it's got some bacchanalias in it. I don't think it'll be a pandemic shoot.
Wow, that all sounds so exciting. I'm going to give you guys one more chance. Austin, Meredith, did you see how they shared? Are you sure you don't want a last chance? Okay. No, I'm kidding. Truly, it has been such a pleasure having you all. I can't thank you enough for taking the time and sharing your work with our audience and giving us such an in-depth, analysis of the behind the scenes of what it takes to pull these incredible films together. And we're looking forward to seeing what's up next for all of you. So thank you so much for being here, and please, take care of yourselves, stay safe and healthy. And I want to say thank you to our audience for their ongoing support of Artists Naples and the Naples International Film Festival. Thank you so much. Thanks so much, guys.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.